Hey everyone, welcome to the 5th episode of the Wheels to Walking podcast.
What up?
What's happening?
My name's Andrew Deitch.
This is Andrew Deitch of the Andrew Deitch podcast.
If you haven't rated and reviewed us on iTunes, I don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, what are you doing? Come on. You're on 5 now. You're on 5. You're on 5. And also, if you are listening to this like a year or two in the future because you found our podcast, you really liked it, and you're binge watching it in reverse or listening to it in reverse, we want to let you know that on Patreon, there's an archive of 41 or 42 episodes available.
I think there's going to be 41.
41 episodes that you can go listen to that we did in secret.
Yeah, kind of in
Before
secret.
this.
You had to pay like $1 to get them.
Yeah. Oh, and for those of you on YouTube, what do you think of the brick wall?
We upgraded our studio already.
We decided to get the brick and the mortar and the spray paint out. Just built it.
Yep, we just built a brick wall right over the black wall that used to be the sticker wall
The
if
curtain wall.
you're an OG.
And now you wouldn't have blended in. Like if it was the black curtain wall, you would have been invisible.
That's true. I actually was thinking about that. I'm like, I can't really wear a black shirt yet, but now I can wear a black shirt.
And I've got Godzilla fighting an Autobot on my shirt.
You're matching our aesthetic a little bit with the orange and black. It's kind of nice.
Yeah,
I like
it's a Godzilla meets fighting someone else.
Yo, dude, can we talk about that weird dude at Vid Summit? I want to talk about that story.
Can we please talk about that story?
Okay, so we were at Vid Summit, which is a YouTube conference for YouTubers, not put on by YouTube, but put on by YouTubers and people who want to get better at YouTube as a business. It's like
It's an industry conference.
It's expensive. Like it's not like a fan event where it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna go see Logan Paul. It's like
and get a meet and greet done.
no, it's not like that. It's like by YouTubers for YouTubers that are trying to make money. So we were at Vid Summit, and I think was it the first night? No, it was like the second night or something like that.
It was
and
the same night we met the Shumways.
So I guess it was the first night.
And we met
It was the networking party,
and
yeah.
the guys from Nerd City. And
Yeah. By the way, that was really cool. We got to meet William Osman, Nerd City, iDubbbz. I like briefly said what up to Peter McKinnon. That was like so cool. I'm like, oh Peter, hi, and he's like so tired. He's
he was
like
checking in.
He's like, oh hey dude, what's up? Like thanks. It was like really brief, but I was like, oh my god.
I remember you said hi to Frono's photo, and he was very weird to you.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone knows who that is. Jared Polin, Frono's photo. He was really weird to me.
Basically, he's a big, gigantic personality on YouTube. So you'd think, like, when you say hello to him, he would also have a big, gigantic personality.
Oh, hey, what's up? But he was really like...
He was like,
oh, cool. Thanks.
Cool. Hi,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we also met Mr. Beast. He was awkward, too.
Oh, so awkward.
And we met Quibble Cop, and we had no idea who he was.
I don't even know who you're
He's
talking
that
about.
guy with 11 million subscribers. And
Oh,
he was
the
like,
guy
what's
with
up? Hey, I'm
Jordy.
Yeah,
Jordy was
hey,
nice.
I'm Jordy. And we're like, hey, Jordy, what's up,
Jordy
man?
totally saved us from that weird Mr. Beast confrontation.
Yeah. But anyways, we talked a lot about Vid Summit on our secret podcast that Richard was talking about that you can still go listen to on Patreon. But this one guy walked up to us, and he had something wrong with him.
He had a stroke.
That's
so
what it
he
was.
was walking around with a cane. And I was
He was
like,
kinda limping
and I was
around.
like, okay, this guy definitely wants to talk to me. He like flagged me down so he could talk to me, and I'm like, all right, fine. Like I got a disability, you got a disability. He must not be a part of the same email list that I'm on because we all know each other. Obviously, there's like the wheelchair email list. There's like the cane email list. There's the crutches. There's email lists for all the disabilities. Just we all know each other, didn't you know? So. He just starts talking to me and just keeps talking to me, and we come to find out that like he lives in Hawaii and he couldn't afford tickets to come to the conference, but he could come hang out in the lobby because his wife works for Delta, so he gets to fly for free. So he flew to LA and then came and hung out in the lobby of the conference to like
But didn't have a ticket.
And
he also didn't have a hotel. He was sleeping in the airport.
He was sleeping at the airport, so he would just go through TSA and just like keep sleeping in the airport because he had this like buddy pass from his wife or something. It was quite an interesting situation. It was such a long convo that you left to go to the bathroom.
And then I was hoping that by the time I came back from the bathroom, that convo would be over.
No, so then I left to go to the bathroom, and I stayed gone for as long as I could, hoping that you would break away, and it didn't happen again. And I was like, dude, how are we gonna
break away?
How
from
can we
this
break
guy?
away from this guy? And then I finally just rolled up, and I just didn't talk. I just like waited for him.
I was still talking.
I just waited for him to like run out of words. and not give him any more lead into the conversation. Like not even a or a yep, just waiting
for him to shut up.
Basically. And finally, like you were completely turned around. I was mostly turned around like, okay, bye, see ya. And he was like, hey, wait, before you go, like, can I pray for you? And in
do you mind if I pray for you?
And in my head, I'm like, yeah, sure. When you go to bed at night, like, yeah, you can pray for me. Like, I wasn't thinking he was going to, in that moment, like, put hands on me and start praying.
But that is exactly what he did.
That's exactly what he did. And let me tell you, it was awkward. Because to me, dude, praying for a disabled person is very offensive for many ways. And it's so annoying because it's the assumption that we can get better. It's the assumption, like my friend Pitt, he's an amputee and they'll like pray for his legs to grow back. You know, like that doesn't.
Lord God, I pray for growth.
And also it's like
they ain't growing back. I hate to break it to you, dude.
Yeah, it's like I'm not gonna get any better from this. And it's almost a way to like talk to someone without actually talking to them directly. You're like talking to a spirit or something.
That is true.
You know, it's like, let me just bless you. And it's like, no, you can just like look at me in the eye and you can say those things to me. You don't have to pretend to be talking to some God and then like say it to me. Like that's okay.
Well, to them, they're not pretending, but whatever.
To them, it's not. You're right. And then it's also like in my head, like it's for them. It's not for me. What basically they're saying is like, can I show you how spiritual I am and how much I love God? Because I'm going to pray to him for you.
Yeah. I mean,
it's kind of, I just find it rude and almost disrespectful. And to the point.
Again, like people always, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. They have good intentions. I don't think anyone's like trying to patronize you, but it is patronizing.
Extremely. And I even think about
because it happens a lot.
Oh, too much. To the point where people are like, can I pray for you? And I'm like, yeah, just not right now. Which is my way of saying like, you can go pray for me somewhere else. Or when they're like, hey, can I pray for you? I'm like, yeah, tonight when you're in bed, you can. Like, I always like lead it up to this thing where I'm like, yeah, sure. Like on your own time, like I'm doing things right now. Don't touch me.
And it's like, people might be like, oh, well, they're just being nice, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm an able-bodied person. I haven't had anyone offer to pray for me in years. You know what I mean? Like,
why would anybody? Yeah, because they're just assuming you're
the last time it was like at church or like at church camp or something. Like it wasn't like in a random Target where I like met someone briefly and they're like, hey, do you mind if I pray for you?
Yeah.
And it's like, no.
I also remember like when
happened to me.
When I was a Christian, which for those of you that don't know, I'm no longer a Christian. I remember there were the people that were like the pray in public people. And a lot of us were like, oh God, it's the pray in public people. Because if you actually read the Bible, you know that Jesus condemned people that prayed in public. The Pharisees were the ones that used to walk around in public and would pray as a way to like show off and like flex on their holiness. And Jesus is like, no, you need to pray in private. Quit showing it off like this is something to be like, show off your relationship with a God or something like that. Like
it's the same thing as when you're at a question and answer and someone like asks a question that's not really a question and they're really just trying to flex on how much they know. Like in Jordan Peterson, he does these podcasts where it's literally just like a lecture, and at the end he does Q&A, and so many of the questions are just these like student, because they'll do them at colleges, and it's these like psychology students that are just trying to like
students or something.
They're just trying to prove how much they know. To like, oh, I loved when you talked about Nietzsche, because my favorite part of Nietzsche's writing is actually this book where he talks about this and this and this, and I just thought it was so amazing that you talked about Nietzsche because I'm such a big Nietzsche fan and blah 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 blah, and they're basically just trying to like stunt on everyone that they like the same stuff that Jordan Peterson likes. And at the end, they ask like such a non-question, like, so, do you really think the blah, 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 blah? And he's like,
yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when we were at Vid Summit.
Oh my God.
Some guy literally had a 10-minute question
that ended in a yep.
And the guy at the end was like, yep.
And the guy was, oh my gosh, thank you. It was so cringe.
It's like he basically asked a question and then answered his own question and then just verified that was the correct answer
and
to have.
And kept repeating the same words over and over. He was...
I left to go to the bathroom and it takes me a little bit long to pee, and when I came back I was like, is that the same guy?
It literally was.
Is that the same guy?
Everyone in that room was like, shut up, like we were all thinking it, and the guy on stage was just crossing his arms and had like, he was like cocked to one side, and
you could tell he was
this
irritated.
Fucking jackass, when is he gonna shut up? But yeah, that happens a lot, and I feel like that's kind of sometimes the equivalent of the praying in public.
Yeah, but again, it kind of goes to the like, what's the automatic perception of a person who uses a wheelchair or a disabled person? That they're broken. And the only way for them to be a complete and whole person is for them to be healed. So by coming up to me and being like, can I pray for you? Sometimes I'll be like, why? And they'll be like, oh, because for your healing. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm good. I don't need you to do this. It's like, because technically, let's imagine that prayer worked, and let's imagine that miracles were real, and someone prayed over me, and all of a sudden I wasn't paralyzed anymore. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't help people anymore. I couldn't have the lifestyle that I have. I wouldn't want that. So it's like, no, please don't pray for me. Like, even like
Aaron Wheels, who's like probably the most famous person in a wheelchair, not in a wheelchair. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He has spina bifida. He can walk a little bit. He's not permanently bound or anything, but he is a wheelchair user. He's probably the most famous one. He's the guy that does the backflips on Nitro Circus. And even he says, no, please don't. Like when people are like, hey, can I pray for you? And it's like, no. Like, and he's religious. Like he literally said that in a video that was made by his church. Yeah. Like, he talks about it. He's like, you don't have to pray for me. Like, I'm not, like, I was born this way, yo. Like, I'm not getting any better. Like,
he's like, my wheels will take me further than shoes have ever taken me.
My wheels have taken me further than shoes would have ever taken me. And that's so freaking true, dude. And it's like, I've heard even like people, because I'm deep in this wheelchair world now. It's like, I've heard people talk about like, oh, Heavenly Father, I pray that, one day in heaven he gets to walk. And it's like, why do you think I want to walk so fucking bad? Like, it's like the wheelchair is not...
Don't project this on me.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't make what you think about me...
You're broken and you need to be whole.
Make what I think about me. Like, I'm fine. I'm good. Like, I don't need you to take your misconstrued perspective of what my life is and then pray for it to be fixed when it's not broken. Like, I'm fine.
You're good.
It's like, it's the same thing as like when you get applauded for being like happy. Like if I'm like a happy person in a wheelchair, you get like applauded for that. And it's like, so you're telling me that all people in wheelchairs need to be sad?
The default is sad because you're broken.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, like there's so many like incorrect misconceptions. And a guy named Eric talks about like the misdiagnosis. Like someone sees wheelchair, they automatically think, oh, this guy just got out of surgery, like he can't walk, like his legs are broken, like let me go help him push, or let me go open up a door for him. And it's like, no, like pause, look at my fitness, look at the wheelchair I'm in. Do you see any bandages or wounds on me? It's like, you need to just like, I have no casts, like I'm driving.
Your wheelchair has no push handles.
There's no push handles on this thing. Like it's clearly like this is my thing, And God, I even get annoyed at the questions like, hey, like how long are you gonna be in there? Forever. It's like it's not. It's a different kind of injury because it's an injury that lasts forever that you can improve a little bit depending on how hard you work, but it's like 2 to 3% of people that get a spinal cord injury can quote unquote walk out of rehab.
Yeah, but here's the thing too. That's why we're doing this podcast, to educate people so that they know what's up, because exactly. I wouldn't have known. I don't know.
I wouldn't have known, but either, you know what I mean? I can't fault people. Like I was an able-bodied person before I was disabled, which meant I had some type of preconceived notions about what disability was, and then I got hurt and I projected all of those projections onto myself, and then I was like, okay, gotta fit the stereotype. And it was just very weird because even when I would be out in public and people would look at me, I would think that they were looking at me the way that I looked at disabled people, which was not good. It's this very interesting, like a lot of guys in chairs when they first get hurt are too embarrassed to go out. They're like, I don't want to be seen. I don't want people to like think X about me. And it's like, when people don't, you do about yourself, but you think it's other people that think it. It kind of, I think that's more of a correct understanding of like, I guess the word ableism is like this idea of like, I think it's called internalized ableism. It's basically like, when you low key, whether you know it or not, like have hate for disabled people and then you become disabled. So then you have like hate in your own heart for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like this whole discovery process because you have to figure out like how much your body functions does not dictate your worth, because you used to dictate your worth based on your body's functions.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, but I think able-bodied folks are bad at a quick diagnosis. They just see wheelchair and apply the stereotype that they know.
Exactly. But that's what we're here for. Okay. we've got some questions.
Yeah, we got a few questions.
I've got a good question that's kind of related to what we're talking about. So we're talking about, look at my wheelchair, blah, 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 blah. But some people use assistive devices with their wheelchairs, attachments, if you will, or certain things. So one of the questions that you've gotten recently is, what is your favorite assistive device for wheelchairs?
I haven't found one yet because I've built my body in such a way that I don't need an assistive device. Like, I have enough strength and enough stamina, and I eat nutritiously, and I'm really active, and I've learned proper effective and efficient pushing techniques, and I know how to like pop wheelies and jump curbs and go up hills, and like I don't need anything. And there's a lot of people that are always about like, oh, well, there's this new front end attachment that you can get that you can clip on when you go travel and zoom around places, or oh, well, there's this one that you can clip on the back and it's connected to a watch and you can push and it boosts you, or like, oh, well, there's these special add-on wheels that give you assistance. And it's like, to me, I am not a fan of those personally. That's not to knock on anybody who has them, but for me personally, that's just extra clunk and added weight and just dragging something around that honestly makes the ride rougher. Like when you have the front end attachments that lift your front wheels off, which means you got a deeper bucket, which means your sitting bones, you're sitting wrong, and you could potentially give yourself a pressure sore. If you've got the one on the back, it makes your ride like really bumpy and obnoxious. Like when we were in New York, because
they're those omnidirectional wheels, so they kind of like
vibrate along, and it's like, to me, the benefit to
the smart drive, like it is really light. And it's cool to have.
I mean, it's still 5 to 7 pounds extra that you got to carry around.
But that's the thing; it's 5 to 7 pounds, and I mean,
you got to charge it, and it doesn't work all the time, and you got to have this little wristwatch attachment.
And not only that, but let's be real, it's not pushing you 100%. You're still having to do the work. Like, it's helping you.
I mean, it's exactly that. It's an assistive device. It's for when you need it. But I hate the idea of just in case items. I mean, that's very much like.
What do you have against Justin? I mean, my friend Justin Case.
How dare him? Well, I don't know.
He has a lot of good items.
I think what happens if you are a just in case person, that means you're going to be carrying like a 20-pound backpack around with you at all times.
Yeah. But it's attached to my wheelchair. It's not that bad.
I mean, no, it isn't. Like, no, it's just like.
But you used to be that guy, right? You used to carry around like an extra pair of clothes in case you had an extra pair of pants, extra pair of underwear in case you had an accident.
I would carry all my meds.
All kinds of extra stuff.
multiple days worth of like catheter supplies. I mean, I carried around a massive backpack, and now I'm down to like this little small MERS, more or less.
Yeah, and the MERS thing works great for you because sometimes you're not in the chair, and a lot of times when you're peeing, you stand up to pee. Yeah. Even when you're in the stall or whatever, you're still standing up to pee. So it's like if my bag's on my chair and my chair is behind me, that's not very easy. Like, I'd rather have it on me.
If I was a full-time wheelchair user, I would have. There are some really clever bag attachments for wheelchairs, and I would probably use one of those. But
well, you were for 6 years. Did you use some of those types of things?
No, I just kept the same man bag. I like didn't want to spend a bunch of money, and I didn't want extra weight on my wheelchair and like
things hanging off.
I don't know. I follow the rule. If I can get it in 20 minutes or less for less than $20, I don't keep it with me. Like, in any way, shape, or form, and almost everything can be accessed for $20 in 20 minutes. I mean, that's even in my house. I don't keep things around that I don't use every 90 days. Everything I have, I use. Like, it's very important to me that everything has a use or a function, or like will have a function. Like,
or brings you value in some way. Like,
adds value.
This painting, it brings me joy, so I keep it around. I use it every day. I glance at it, and it warms my heart.
Yes.
Same. I glance at it every day. Not every day, but every day I'm here.
Good enough. Yeah, but I don't know. I think when everyone's always like, what's the newest, best, assistive device on the market? What's the newest attachment you can get? And it's like, just work out. Work out, get stronger, get better on your wheelchair skills. Your body is the most proficient. You can get better wheelie skills, you can get better pushing skills, you can get a bit more strength and endurance, and then you have less junk you got to carry around with you at all times.
That makes sense.
But there's some people that don't have those options, and I think in my head of like my friend Laura. She's a C5 quad, and she has like a smart drive that she always has with her because her ability to self-propel is limited because her muscles just don't work. They're not there. She's a quadriplegic, which means all 4 limbs are impaired, and she doesn't have like biceps or triceps. She just has like palms to like push. It's hard. So for her, it's like, it's awesome for her because she, but she also is the type of person who's like, oh, I don't want a power chair either, because people with her level of injury sometimes have power chairs. So she has a manual chair with an assistive device, and she even has another little attachment that she clips onto the front that just turns it into like a trike, so you can make it more off-road friendly. But that's my take on it.
I know. What was the guy that we visited in San Diego? He had one of those.
He had a Firefly.
Yeah.
But that was for like when he travels internationally, and
Well, no, he said he rides down to the boardwalk or whatever with his wife or something too.
Who knows? Either way, the bottom line is like I personally,
and he trails his like surfboard behind him or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like me personally,
it's not a part of your lifestyle.
It's not a part of my lifestyle. But if I like lived near a beach, or if I regularly like took long hikes or whatever, or like if Jalila one summer was like, I want to buy a bird or a boosted scooter, and I'd be like, okay, well let me go buy a Baytech then, and then we can just zoom around instead of me having to like grab onto hers.
Yeah. No, and I mean, just to reiterate on that, as far as your friend who needs an assistive device, if you need the assistive device, then use it. But like, you don't need it. So it's like, people are always asking you, oh, what's the best one? It's like, I don't use one, so I don't have any way to say. You got to like test it for yourself and figure out what works for you and what's not works for you. But
I think if you're a paraplegic, if you're a spinal cord injury paraplegic, and you have like a power chair or an assistive device, you need to work out your body.
Yeah.
And if you're a quadriplegic, then sure, use some assistive devices. If you're someone who's like a EDS, hypermobile, who has a lot of, bone and joint and thumb and wrist and dislocations and shoulders and stuff like that, if you have dislocation issues, then yeah, use a smart drive. But if you're someone who has some upper body strength, I mean, I know plenty of self-propelling quads that don't have smart drives because they're like, no, it's clunky. It's heavier for me to push around. Yeah,
exactly. And like, to your point, we went to Hands On Concepts and we had the ability to get like a monoshock chair, but we analyzed, it's like, okay, the monoshock is going to be heavier. It's going to not bring me much value in my life. I'm not hucking myself off stages.
Shout out Daryl.
Shout out Daryl. And, it's like, you've been rocking a rigid for a long time.
A rigid ultralight is what I've been into, and I wanted the monoshock, but when I realized that my day-to-day activities don't really require a monoshock, and
it just looks cool,
and the fact that it weighed an extra 5 pounds, and the fact that I would have to like mess with its damper, as far as like, I was like, oh, I don't want to do more maintenance. I don't want more responsibilities on my wheelchair.
How's your you switched from rigid to pneumatic tires? How's that change been?
From solid tires to pneumatic tires.
What did I say? Rigid tires?
Yeah, it's fine. I was concerned because I didn't want to have to like pump up these tires all the time. But since Ryan Baker was like, dude, just get a handheld compressor, I was like, okay, fine. And I did. And
game changer.
Like it's not a problem anymore.
Nice.
Yeah, because that was my biggest annoyance, is like whenever this went flat. I mean, I talk about it in my gift video. And it was just annoying because I'm like, ugh.
You're going to have to get a friend or go to a bike shop and get someone to stand on a pump and pump it full of air.
Yeah, now I just got this little, it looks like a drill sort of with a little nose on the front of it. And
it does.
Pumps it up.
A little dongle on the front. Yes. Okay, next question.
I've got a question for you.
Oh, okay. But you can ask me a question because...
But you've already kind of sort of answered it, but I think they would like to get into this story. Was YouTube your first step into filmmaking?
I guess mainly just because I've been on YouTube for a long time. Like, I've made videos for a long time. Like, I remember when I got my very first phone, I uploaded videos to YouTube, and that channel still exists.
I mean, I would argue that your Snapchat stories were filmmaking.
Yeah, for sure. Sure.
I mean, so starting from that, like...
Well, what's funny is I used to, so I had an iPod Touch, and I had an app on there where I could make stop motion videos too. So I'd make little animations with stop motion. That was super fun. You can literally still find that YouTube channel. It's hilarious. I'll have to show you the videos later. It's so cringe. But
is it worthy of show notes?
Maybe. I don't. I mean, if you can find it, then have fun. But I'm not gonna link it.
Was it like
I'm not gonna advertise it?
Was it like Froggy Fart Boy 13? Like, was it some like
no,
stupid?
It's my name. Like, I still use the email even for
Okay.
like my trash email. It's like my spam email, but that's the email that's linked to that YouTube account. But yeah, I have like not a music video, but like a song that my friend and I recorded. Like, it's weird. But yeah, I've got a bunch of random stuff on that channel. So I guess that was like my first but I never really got very many views. I had one video that had like 10,000 views. I was like,
that was your college dropout video, right?
Before that, when I was really young and I had my first phone, me and my brother, we were into riding like ripsticks and scooters and stuff.
Yeah, I remember you
and
telling
we
me
made this one video that like somehow got ranked like after a while because ripstick we were riding these things called the Wave. It was basically the same thing as a ripstick. But it was based in like Australia or something. So the ripstick just got really popular because they were owned by Razer in America, and Razer had like a huge market. But anyways, I made a video called the Ultimate Wave Scooter and Skateboard Video. And so the way that it was tagged, when people searched Wave Scooter, because the company The Wave eventually came out with a scooter, so people would type in the Wave Scooter. And so my video was like the only thing that would pop up. And so the video just got shit tons of views, but the watch time was terrible because everyone's like, oh, this isn't what I'm wanting. But it got so many views. But anyways, so yeah, like I've always loved YouTube, but I never like really spent so much time on it. But you're right. I think my Snapchat stories was probably like a really big help in like storytelling because I realized that I could tell like a cohesive story through my like travels and stuff through these 10-second clips. So I would, go to the beach one day and I'd be like, okay, what's up guys? I'm going to go to the beach and today I'm going to try to find as many Ferraris as I can or whatever. And so I'd go around, I'd do like segments where I did this one called like, supercar spotting or something. And I was like the crocodile hunter, but I was hunting Ferraris or what a beautiful specimen. It's a Ferrari FF. Wow. She's a beauty. Let's go take a closer look. And I'd like go in and, find little things and especially in Italy, I was like finding all kinds of cool cars and stuff. So today we're on the hunt for the rare Ferrari 458. Let's see if we can find one today.
And Snapchat was all in vertical because it was on a phone, yeah?
Yeah, it pretty much. I mean, you could do whatever, but it was mainly vertical, yes.
And then when did
you could draw and stuff?
When did you transition over? So you were one of the first people I heard that was always talking about vertical. And because that was like for the longest time, the cardinal sin of shooting video, because we all have these phones that we normally keep vertically, but whenever we like really quick reactively like, oh look, like there's a cop that's like beating up a guy, or like, oh, like there's a Lamborghini on fire, like everyone just like naturally films it in vertical.
Well, people film in vertical, but the thing is back in the day, right when online video started becoming popular, YouTube was a thing, but our phones weren't good enough to watch online video really. So people would watch a lot of video on their computers, and computer monitors are the orientation is wide, and so then you'd film portrait and people would just get mad because they're like, turn your freaking phone sideways, what are you doing? It's like every other form of media is sideways, what are you doing? Stop it. But now that we're all holding our phones vertically, and like, Snapchat stories is a thing and FaceTime is a thing, and there's this new medium, people are holding their phone vertically, and there's actually a lot of studies been done, like a lot of people even in YouTube like
still watch it vertical,
pull full screen. They just watch it in the little screen because, whatever.
Jalila will sometimes watch thumbnails with subtitles.
Yeah, dude. I sometimes will catch myself watching like half of a video like that. It's weird, but it works, whatever.
Yeah.
Apparently that counts as watch time.
It does, because you can actually, when you scroll past it, it keeps the place where you stopped.
Yeah.
There's also TikTok is, I think, the first platform that was completely built on vertical.
Snapchat.
Well, Snapchat, okay, and then we got Instagram Stories, which was basically Snapchat stolen because
there's no way to ever rotate Instagram until recently. So I guess Instagram is also kind of vertical, but not really.
But not really.
It was always squares.
Squares, yeah.
But it was a scrolling vertical.
But I remember you were like the first time we met, you made a Instagram story.
Yeah, so that was when
video that you'd like edited. You had made it like a full video, like to be consumed in vertical.
Yeah. So basically, I went to a conference that my friend Ryan McGinn was hosting, and he was talking about like the emergence of vertical video and why it's important. And he was noticing all these trends. For example, Spotify, they pay artists or whatever to make these little vertical music videos that play when you play a song.
And it's only a few seconds. It's not actually long.
Some of them are full videos. Like Billie Eilish has like full videos when you play her songs. Like they're actual full music videos. Most of them are basically boomerangs.
Yeah.
They're not like full music
like
videos.
10, 15 seconds of just
but if
like
you
the
go
same
on
thing
like her
over and over.
YouTube channel, it literally says like, you know, you should see me in a crown vertical video. And then it's like in the description, it's like vertical video made for Spotify or whatever. Like I'm pretty confident that Spotify probably paid for the production of that because they wanted like the exclusive video or whatever. Who knows? But, or maybe it was a partnership. Maybe they paid half and half. Who freaking knows? Either way. But Ryan was seeing like how important Instagram stories was. And he's like, dude, these companies like Red Bull and GoPro and, you know, they're producing all this high-end content for their stories that's vertical. And there's this dude named Jesse Driftwood. He was one of the first guys to like really put in time making these epic vertical stories, like edited vlogs for Instagram stories. So he'd literally turn his camera sideways and shoot in vertical. And so Ryan was like, oh my gosh, this is like next level shit because no one is spending the quality time to make good Instagram stories. Everyone's just goofing like, oh, it's me drunk at the bar. Like Instagram stories is...
Well, I mean, that's kind of the
in the beginning, that's what it was. Well, that's what
yeah.
Snapchat stories was, right? So, but with Instagram stories, you could upload stuff. With Snapchat, you could only upload from the camera itself.
Not like that anymore, though.
Now
right?
you can upload whatever, but in the beginning, you could only upload from the built-in Snapchat camera. So, he was seeing this emergence of vertical video and he's like, dude, I see it coming. It's happening. Like there's so much vertical stuff. And it was right when IGTV was launching. And he was like, I think at some point stories and IGTV are going to like merge somehow. I think Instagram is going full in on this vertical thing. You know, like everyone's holding their phone this way. Like it's very engaging. If you're making videos that are designed to be on Instagram, you need to be making vertical videos because they're the most engaging, blah, 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 blah. So, I took it to heart and I just started making all these like edited vlogs on a GoPro. Like literally I would turn my GoPro sideways and just make like these little daily vlogs. And I made a video like every day for like a couple months.
Wasn't your gym video like what the very first one you ever did?
Yeah.
You did a workout?
I bought the GoPro on eBay and then it came that day and then I went to the gym that night and like shot a little mini like edit. It was like 30 seconds.
And that was what, end of 2016? Like it was pretty recent.
Yeah, something like that. End of 26. No, because I'd already started my podcast. It was like the end of like 2017.
End of 2017. I remember seeing that and being like, nice.
Yeah, and the thing is like because it was after I had started my podcast too. Because before that, I didn't have a camera. I didn't have a laptop to edit anything. Even if I did have a camera, my laptop was terrible. And then like. Not only that, but it was just like it was kind of like with the podcast, it was like I needed to get other ducks in a row before I spent money on like fun stuff. You know what I mean? It's like I need to like move out of my parents' house. I need to like buy a car. I need to like, you know, do like adult things before it's like, I'm going to go buy a $2,000 camera. Fun. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to splurge on a laptop that's for making vlogs. Like, you know, like that's not a priority. Right. But when I started the podcast, that kind of gave me an excuse to start like getting back into that creative mindset. And then I just started like teaching myself through trial and error. And really at the time, like no one was making edited like vertical stuff. And now tons of people are, like so many. I mean, I literally have seen like behind the scenes stuff where they'll be shooting like Red Bull, for example. They'll have like a main shooter and then they'll have like a second shooter who's shooting for vertical. Like they're actually flipping their camera. And a lot of these guys are shooting in like 4K, 8K, so cropping in's not a big problem.
Right.
But like, you know, it's like, hello, if you're shooting the video with the intent that it's going to end up on a vertical platform, then shoot in vertical. Like there's no problem with that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, there's a lot of people that
breaking the rules, but for why?
They don't take the strategy to think.
I'm not gonna.
How is this going to be seen? No one.
I'm not going to shoot a feature film vertically. You know, like no shit. Like that's designed to be watched for a long time on a big screen with good audio. Like it's not designed to be watched in your hand, but for a quick, cool promo, the best way to capture your attention is you got to take up screen real estate. And if you're scrolling through Instagram, it's a vertical scrolling. So you got to take up as much vertical space as possible. And same with stories. So that was kind of what I was doing. And then that just turned into me finally buying like a good camera because I wanted to like try vlogging, like kind of like Casey Neistat style.
Was it the 70D or the Rebel?
I never owned a Rebel. I just borrowed one from a friend.
Yeah, but this because the Rebel doesn't have video, right?
It does, but it's crap.
It's bad. Yeah,
it's just not a great. I mean, it's an okay starter camera, I guess, but like
a 70D with a Rode shotgun and a Gorilla Pod is like the Neistat setup.
It literally is the Neistat setup. So I was like, I just wanted to copy Casey, try vlogging a little bit, and
you did that for a couple of days, and I remember you telling me you're like, it's lame.
Well, no,
you're like, it's hard to keep up with, and no one cares, and no one's watching, so whatever.
Yeah, I still have a bunch of the footage still sitting on a hard drive somewhere. Like I have one where I like went to the zoo and got a bunch of cool footage of like animals, and I did a lot of cool stuff with like my footage. It was more fun. It was honestly a good experience to just like go around and shoot stuff, but I never ended up editing it and like releasing it anywhere really. I made like 3 vlogs or something, 3 or 4. But yeah, it was just hard to keep up. Just like no one cares. This isn't making me any money. No one's gonna watch this. Blah blah blah. You know, like imposter syndrome, all that kind of shit. And so, and I was at the time like spending so much time on my personal podcast too, which is actually getting traction. And so it was like, I'm just gonna spend the time on the podcast. But yeah. So I had like that camera, and then when we started working together, I was still using that camera, the 70D.
We didn't shoot many videos, and with that one, and
we shot the most viral one though.
Yeah, still the one with the most views. And I remember at one point you were like, I need a different camera. And I was like, why? And you told me all the reasons why. And I was like, okay, let's get you a different camera. And you're like, okay, well, I know a guy who has one that is going to give it to us on a deal. So let's do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it.
It was honestly perfect. Shout out Randall Blizzard. Mm-hmm. He was selling, I went and did his podcast. He had a podcast, or he has a podcast. He hasn't uploaded in a while, but it's the Late Night Startup. And he owns a video production company, and I remember going into his studio and just being like blown away. He's got
big commercial clients that the camera he gave us was too weak for those clients.
Yeah, that was a camera that he literally bought on a whim for doing like family vlogs and stuff. He was like, oh, I want to like use it when I go to the beach and stuff. Like that was why he bought it, and then he just never used it. So he sold us that camera and 2 lenses. He was super cool too. He let us borrow it for like a couple of days.
Yeah, he was like, if you want to try it first, you can. And I think it's because he knew we were going to love it. So he was like, yeah,
probably.
You
but also it was sitting on a shelf for like a year and he never touched it. So he's like, I don't use it. So sure, like you can borrow it and like, let me know if you want it. So that was cool. And that's the camera we're using right now, actually. It's the Panasonic GH5 Lumix. It's badass.
And that is kind of like the YouTube camera now.
Kind of seems like it. If you're not using like a Sony, it seems like it's the GH5, the Sony A7 II or 3, AJ.
Yeah, it's the A7 III.
That's the new good one.
And then nowadays, it's the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K.
Not really for YouTubers, though. If you're filming yourself, I wouldn't say so. I'd say
I've seen it around the block for YouTube.
I've seen it around the block if you have a shooter. I think if you're vlogging, it's not practical.
I mean, that camera was actually meant for vlogging, but it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't
because there's actually a button on the front end where you're supposed to press it, but it's like, hey, the screen doesn't flip out.
Yeah, I can't see myself. What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah, there's this giant screen, but it doesn't flip unless you get that. They have an adapter that basically you can attach like a little flip up. It's pretty sick. But anyways, a lot of YouTubers are actually using the Canon EOS R though. Like it's not like on paper. It's kind of like why. But Canon's cameras are just like, people are just really reliable with Canon, and Canon's glass is so good.
Is Nikon like gone now? Does no one use Nikon
for photography?
Nikon's for photography.
Because it's got good color, right?
Yeah, it's got good color science, and people have probably just been using them for years and stuff, but they've never really excelled in the video side. Also, Fujifilm makes like some pretty solid video cameras, but like they've just never really seemed to catch on with like this new like younger YouTube crowd.
Well, the Fujifilm brand is kind of like
Old.
Okay.
Yeah, but my friend Alex has one and it's really good. Like it shoots really nice, like epic slow-mo. Like it's sick.
Yeah, the only thing I know about Fujifilm is the Instax Mini, which is basically...
Do they make that camera?
Polaroid. Yeah, Fujifilm Instax Mini, which is basically... It's an instant camera that you can carry around with you. I used to use it to be able to start conversations with girls. Or like groups of people. I would always like go out, and whenever, again, back to like that whole conversation of dating myself, I would find myself just walking up to a group and be like, hey, you guys friends? And they'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, you want a picture? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. And I'd take a picture and just hand it to them. And people are stoked because normally pictures are on phones and you don't get to see them immediately. So they would grab it.
Well, you get to see them immediately, but you don't get to
touch it, hold it. Yeah. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is amazing. And then we just start a conversation, and so for the price of like a little quick, you could have you're in. It was like the quickest way to like get into a conversation.
Pro tip.
Yeah. The thing with film, in my opinion, is that it has that since it's so like natural and just raw, it gives you that like when I shoot on film on like my photography camera, and you go and get it developed, and then you get it back. You like feel the emotion of like, oh my God, I remember that moment.
And then isn't it like the grittiness, like the grainy?
You can see the grain and just like it just feels that's how I see it. It's very
kind of like
emotional.
Nostalgic too, because it's like an old art form almost. So you like,
it's technically a fine art. Photography is a fine art, especially if you develop in a red room by yourself. Like if you personally develop the photo, that photo that's out there.
A red room? Dark room?
Dark room, excuse me.
Yeah, dark room.
Dark room, yeah.
This is a room that's red.
Yeah, I'm not a photographer. Sorry, everyone who is a photographer. That picture out there of me doing the 9/11 memorial, my friend Emily took on one of the ones you got to put a hood over yourself, and
no way,
and the big flash bulb, and it prints it out on this like 6x8 cartridge, and she's like it was clunky as fuck.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
This has become a very tech heavy.
Yeah,
episode.
but we're YouTubers, so
it makes sense. No, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, but anyways,
some industry talk for sure.
I really just to continue on the camera talk for a second. The GH5, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious about what equipment we use and stuff. People ask you a lot, and you're always just like, ask Andrew.
Honestly, we can affiliate link everything we use. I mean, even this stuff. We can affiliate like
everything. We'll talk about our setup and stuff at some point. We'll maybe make like a studio tour kind of video, but. The GH5 is just an awesome camera in my opinion because everything that comes out of it like just looks like really cinematic. The color is like kind of like a little bit flatter of a profile, so you got to do a little bit of grading. Like it's not like as natural as like Canon's color science. Like Canon's color science is really beautiful. The skin tones are amazing. Like I think sometimes the skin tones from the GH5 look a little bit grayer or almost a little bit greener. Like they don't look as like when you see them, you're kind of like, it's a little bit unnatural. But with some color grading, you can fix that. But again, it's kind of like if you want a camera that's just gonna like produce like really accurate stuff right off the bat, maybe the GH5 isn't. And you don't want to do any post production, maybe the GH5 isn't for you. But like if you're a nerd and you want to edit stuff and you like really dig that kind of like cinematic look, you can shoot in slow-mo. It has dual stabilization. Like you can get lenses that are stabilized and the body is also stabilized, so the sensor and the lens work in tandem to stabilize your image. So a lot of times I never use a gimbal. If I need
some smooth B-roll though,
we can get some smooth B-roll, especially with the combination of slow-mo, which just slows all of your movements down to make them smoother, and then the fact that it's using that double IBIS, like it's pretty amazing what you can achieve with even hand holding the camera. It's pretty nuts.
And even like the wheelchair is a very interesting slow-mo like subject. So you could definitely capture a lot of interesting stuff with slow-mo.
Yeah. The gripes I have with the GH5 is the autofocus isn't the best.
It kind of sucks sometimes.
And the low light isn't the best. But with some screwing around, as long as it's just like anything, it's like a Ferrari. It's great at certain things, it's terrible at others. You just got to pick what you want it for and why you need it.
Any level of technology like that, it gets better and better and better and better and better. It can only get better at certain things. It can't like in total get better. Like,
I will say though, I think the Lumix S1H that just came out might be my ideal perfect camera that I would ever want.
Because they fixed all the little bugs that this one has, right?
Yeah, they kept all the awesome stuff and they fixed all the little annoyances, and it's just
full frame.
Exactly, and it's full frame. It's still stabilized. It has great low light. Apparently, the autofocus is fixed. It can even shoot in 6K. Like, it's just nuts. Like, it's stupid. And the lineup of lenses is nuts. Like, it's expensive as shit. Like, you're going to spend like 10 grand on like a decent setup with it, but like, it's epic.
If you got 10 grand and you need it.
Yeah. Or if you're a filmmaker and you want to rent it for a shoot, like, screw it. But I think that would be in the future down the road, that would be my, like, you know, I think that's really my dream cam. Because I really, like, personally, you know, people would be like, oh, don't you want like a Red or something like that? But like, that would be cool. But for the purposes of like run and gun, like a lot of our shooting is, like, I just don't think that would be the most ideal for me. I think the S1H would be ideal for me because it's still
you talk about cameras the same way I talk about wheelchairs.
Totally. It's very true. It's accurate because it's, you know, if I was shooting, you know, films and I had someone who could like pull focus for me and all that kind of stuff, like I think like a Blackmagic camera would be sick. Like AJ has one of those, or a Red camera or something where, you know, if we had like a bigger team, maybe in the future, who knows?
Like a full crew.
Yeah. But I think for like now with a one man kind of setup, like the S1H is just badass. And you can modify like crazy. Anyways, we got real nerdy for a second, but your original question was about YouTube, and I think I've always been kind of YouTube-y. I've never been like the type.
You don't have to create something to be able to appreciate something, and then also be able to know what's good and what's bad. Like the amount of YouTube that you consumed, and the same thing that like the amount of YouTube I consumed, we know what's good YouTube and we know what's bad YouTube.
Yeah, I had an eye for it for sure.
Yeah, and you get an eye over time in the same way that like you don't have to be an artist to be an art appreciator. Like you can go into a gallery and
same with music.
Yeah, you don't have exactly anything you consume enough of it, you know what's good and you know what's bad. And especially if you dive into the culture, and then when you're involved in the culture, you learn more as to why it's good and you learn more as to why it's bad, like, and then your opinions change and you think differently about stuff, you know, like.
Totally. But for anyone who's like trying to get into it, I would say just start small and, you know, buy some sort of camera or use your phone or whatever.
Phone. Yeah. Think about that for a second.
Yeah. I'd say invest in like some sort of like computer that you can like edit on too. Like that's like a big deal for me. Like I think something you can grow into, and then because I mean you can still make cool stuff even with like a phone or like a crappy little camera or whatever, as long as you're like lighting stuff properly
without derailing you into a whole nother rant. Why is audio more important than video?
Me and AJ we were actually just talking about that in the car because we went to go pick up this new brick wall backdrop, and I think audio is so important because you can't unlisten. You can unwatch, like you can look away, you can close your eyes, but you can't tell your brain to stop listening to something.
There was a podcast I was listening to just the other day that the host's mic was bad and the guest's mic was good, and I had to stop listening to the podcast. Even though I really liked the guest, I was like, I can't listen to this anymore. Like it hurts my ears. It's so bad.
Yeah, and AJ and I were talking about this. It's like you can forgive somewhat of bad video, but you really cannot forgive bad audio, because when you're trying to like listen to dialogue and the music is too loud or whatever, it's you can't even get into it. Whereas at least if you can hear what's going on, or you know something's not bothering you and weird noises or whatever, you can kind of forgive the bad visuals.
Well, I know that to be true because I upload a 720 version on Facebook. And I intentionally don't give it descriptions or tags or like, Facebook is just for everyone to see a video. But for the most part, I put the most optimized version in every way on YouTube because that's where I want people to watch it, because YouTube is also where I get paid. And you know, there's version, you know, that the people on there's avid like Facebook watchers, and in my head I'm like, do you want like a better version? Like go to YouTube. But some people are like, nah, I'm good on here. Like I'll just like I'll keep watching it here.
But yeah, I think the thing is audio is one of those things where you don't notice good audio
but you
really notice bad audio. And same thing with video. It's like you probably notice bad video, but not nearly as much as bad audio. And some people don't really necessarily like technically know the difference between good video and bad video. Like they might look at a video that's 720p and 4K and like be like, they look the same to me. But you know, someone like me that's been looking at the differences, like I can tell.
The subtleties matter. The little bits matter.
Yeah, and also a lot of times people are like, why are you shooting 4K? It's not necessary. It's mainly for post. It's mainly so I can do things later that I couldn't do in 1080. And I even had that mentality from the beginning.
If you guys want to see a sick video, the hands-on concepts video that when we went and got fitted for the chair, all the B-roll, he wasn't actually like slowly panning the camera. That was done in post.
Exactly. Yeah. So I can get like kind of a wider shot and then later almost like fake the movement of the camera. So you can do like a slow zoom in or like a zoom out or a pan to the right or left in the edit, which is just, it just makes it that much more like cinematic. Cause whenever you have like smooth movements, that's what everyone like talks about. That's why everyone's like so crazy about gimbals and stuff these days. But honestly, sometimes gimbals just like make it like almost unnatural. AJ, what are you thinking?
So my opinion with gimbals is that it's only for stylistic things.
Yeah.
So there is, so like,
it's like only if you are writing in calligraphy do you need a calligraphy pen kind of thing.
You're right.
It's not the right tool for every job.
Yeah.
So like, for example, my friend Brendan, he shoots music videos and he did, I think his buddy, he was a cinematographer. He did this really cool shot on a bridge where the camera was like spinning as if in post.
With the Ronin S?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was the Ronin S.
Because that one can spin in 360.
So, for those of y'all that don't know, the Ronin S, it's like a stick gimbal. So you can program it to spin, and in post production with 4K, you can't really spin unless you were to like zoom in as much to like a ton.
Because you'd get the black bars on the top and bottom as it spun, like you'd see the edges of the video. And you could do some weird like repeating pixels on the edges, but it's not going to look nearly the same as if you really spun the camera in 360. Right. So if you're to achieve certain looks, you need a gimbal.
Yes, exactly. But in another case, I would recommend just buying a
Steadicam.
They're like called glide cams.
Yeah.
So it's just like setting a camera on a stick with weights at the bottom of it. And if you want to get
one of the things I have.
I have a smooth version. Shot, just get
those.
that.
Yeah.
You don't really want to cheap out on it. I would recommend getting that more. But going back to the gimbal, it's also better for using like, let's say like a parkour video. You just need to
chase someone. Yeah,
you need that stabilization.
Yeah, or if you're like, if there's any kind of like fast movements, like if you're
skateboarding, bicycling, cars,
exactly.
Totally action sports kind of stuff. Yes. But if you're just doing like out and about kind of like slow movement stuff, it's the gimbal sometimes gives it this weird like warpy kind of stabilization that looks unreal. And the other thing is sometimes natural camera movement is fine. Like I don't
my friend Lucas is a big fan of just holding it handheld because it gives you that sort of realistic. Or not really realistic.
Because when I'm looking at Richard,
I would say human movement.
Exactly.
There's some human movement, and it's like if I were, especially POV shots.
Exactly.
Like if you're a POV shot and you don't have some human movements in it, it's like, am I even POV?
You're like I'm not a tripod.
Yeah.
Like for an action fight scene, maybe like you'd want that shakiness because it gives you that like tension of like. Oh man, I'm fighting someone, or you're like kind of with the character in that scene.
And that's why a lot of scary movies use like tons of camera movement, like it's jittery.
I mean, the OG was like Blair Witch Project.
Exactly. Like found footage stuff, because that's not safe. It's supposed to look like found footage and stuff. So it's like if you eliminate, and one thing, just again, we're ranting about camera stuff, but whatever, that's what we're into.
I mean, this episode is basically camera stuff now, so who cares?
Which is good. Who cares?
Yeah.
So one thing that's a good tip is like a lot of times people are like hand holding. One tip that my friend Jake taught me a long time ago is instead of trying to like hold the camera as steady as possible, you actually like, if you kind of like slowly kind of sway the camera or like slightly like kind of move from side to side, just barely.
I've noticed you do that like especially when you're using the shorter lens and you're like in my face, you'll have these.
I almost kind of like rock back
you like
and forth.
Left to right and in and out and back and forth, and instead of it looks on purpose, instead of like if you were holding it and it was just
you're gonna start to jitter,
wiggle and jitter and shake, because no human can hold something perfectly still. But if you intentionally kind of
have a little bit of smooth, natural movement,
like ocean almost, like a little bit of like wave to
exactly.
It's chill, and it's like the only way you can really tell is if you look at the top left or the top right of the screen, and you like put like focus on like a tree in the background.
You'll see it goes away,
and the tree like comes in
back.
and out of focus, and I was like, oh, because I was wondering, I was like, why is he always like wagging this camera in my face? Because sometimes it would just, I'm like, is he shooting a music video? Like, what's going on here? Like, what's that? Yeah, exactly.
Right. We joke on that a lot.
Yeah.
But one other thing too, just to end off the whole gimbal argument, not argument, but
Discussion.
Yeah, we'll say that. It's very, very good for getting like car videos.
Totally.
So if you were to, you see those big cars with those cranes, that's what they're called, those cranes that have at the end of them, they have the red cameras, the really expensive ones, and they have the gimbals for
that are stabilizing it.
Yep. And that's really
you kind of have to have one of those. Yeah.
Anything else is kind of pointless.
Exactly. Yeah, I see so many. I remember when at Vid Summit, every freaking guy had a gimbal. It's just like
for like vlogging or something.
Yeah, and it's like the thing about gimbals is it's just like the freaking mono shock on the wheelchair. You don't freaking need it. It's just a flex on like, look at how big my setup is, and whoa, I'm vlogging with this giant thing. I must be important or something. It's like, no, your arm is gonna hurt.
So
no, you're gonna have to charge extra batteries and worry about your gimbal dying throughout the day. No,
a very weird parallel that'll kind of make sense. So there was a time I used to play semi-professional tournament paintball, and it was always the teams that had like the most recent, the most newest, and the most decked out equipment. We knew we knew we were just gonna run over them.
Totally.
Like we saw someone with like a new pack with like a bunch of pods and like the brand new gun that came out like 3 months earlier, and like the hoppers and like all this like tech, and like they had like a full staging area with like a tent, and like I'm like my staging area is like the trunk of my car. My gun is like 4 different colors of parts that I had pulled together because like they had broken halfway through the tournament, and I had to steal parts from other people's guns. Like, like I had this like raggedy jersey and like ripped pants, and I'm like, I always look at my friends.
And you run train on them.
I'd be like, dude, we're just going to destroy these people.
These fucking nerds.
Like we're going to straight crush these kids. And even when there was like a team that would show up, and then like, so there was like feeder teams, just like in other pro sports, like the pro team, there's a semi-pro team, and there's like the feeder team. So sometimes the semi-pro team would like let the feeder team like use their gear, and it was like, oh, they got new guns today. They don't even know how to use them. Like, yes, like
that's
like they may be better. It's like, oh, we were worried about
on
that.
Paper,
like we were worried about that team, but now we're not worried anymore because they don't even know how to work their stuff. Like we know, because like just like all the subtleties and the mechanics of cameras that we've just talked about, the paintball markers, the guns would have their own like personalities.
Totally.
Like egos shot a certain way, and shockers shot a certain way, and cockers did another way, and angels shot another way, and like the DM series, like they all like had different characteristics, and the goal was to be able to hit your opponent. So if you didn't know the personality of the gun, then you didn't know how to use
shoot it. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
You're like figuring it out as you're playing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I remember that with like tennis. I played tons of tennis growing up all the way through high school. And tennis is one of those things where it's kind of like a country club sport where people do kind of dork out on like the clothes of it, and like the nicest rackets, and what strings are you using, and blah, 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 blah.
Shoes and whatever.
Yeah, but the shoes, man, that's a big one. But I remember this one kid from this kind of poor school, and most of the time the schools that were like in the more like ghetto areas, they sucked at tennis because, like, let's face it, like those types of kids aren't really playing very much tennis versus
football, basketball,
the rich kids.
whatever,
they live in a
baseball.
neighborhood with nice tennis courts, and they probably have a pro that works out of there, and so they have like private lessons all the time. Like they're just good at it. And I remember this one kid, he would rock Costco tennis shoes, so we'd always like kind of clown on him a little bit. And he's from a different school,
but he was good.
He's rocking
right?
like the court classics. They're like $20, and they're always like kind of torn up. And he was rocking like not a Walmart racket, but like almost a Walmart racket. Like not a good, it was probably like $50, $60, whereas like a normal good racket would be at least like 120, 130, 50. Like you're spending a decent bit. And he would crush. He was really good.
Just wipe people clean.
He was really, really good. And
Dr. Phil has a funny story about that. How they went and played like a poor school that couldn't even afford uniforms. They had to take like painter's tape and like tape on the numbers onto their shirt. And they got like their asses handed to them. They got cleaned off the field. And afterwards, everyone was like, what happened? Like they were wearing like regular shirts. And it's like, yeah, because that is his only shirt. That is not just a shirt. That is his shirt. Like these boys are hungry. Like they're coming for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was funny because one time our best player on our team, he went and warmed up. We were playing this team that was really bad. It was kind of mean, but he went out on the court with a kid's SpongeBob tennis racket.
Oh, just a stunt
to warm up. So the whole warm up he was using a SpongeBob racket.
Just a clown. Oh my god.
And then when the match started, he pretended like his mom brought him his racket. Like, oh my gosh, thanks, mom. Oh my gosh, I was gonna have to use this SpongeBob racket. But like everyone on our team was like, oh my god, that was so funny. It was so immature, but like we were clowning on the other team pretty hard. But that was pretty funny.
I mean, the same parallel can be. I'll use it. Kind of go back to cameras a little bit. There are people that run very lucrative, highly produced YouTube channels from their iPhone.
You can Doug DeMuro, I think, uses a phone.
You can shoot on an iPhone, you can edit on an iPhone, you can make titles on an iPhone, you can make thumbnails on an iPhone.
I think Emma Chamberlain vlogs on her iPhone and edits on her iPhone.
There's a lot of people, and I was just listening to another podcast, I forget who I was talking to, and maybe it was Sarah Dietschy was talking about her boyfriend switched over to a phone. He's got like his vlog phone, and then he has his like phone. And he was
because he does like skateboarding videos, and a lot of them are stabilized.
She's like, He's like, I don't want to go back to my big kit because this little phone just does everything.
Dude, the iPhone 11 has an amazing camera. I mean, it can shoot in 4K 60. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you have access to like an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8 that like your mom threw in a drawer because she upgraded to the 10 or 11, like you grab that. Like that can be your video camera because 10, 20 years ago, that technology didn't even exist on the highest level equipment.
True. True, but like, you're still dealing with a really tiny sensor. So like, even though, yes, maybe like the actual sensors weren't as like, you couldn't capture as many pixels, but like the lenses were still really good. But you're right.
The argument I'm trying to make is storytelling over production.
100,000%. I know people that rock really expensive setups and their videos suck. I mean, we watched a short film last night, me and AJ. I guaranteed they're using state-of-the-art equipment. I mean, it wasn't like they weren't using good stuff, but the video sucked.
This like, I mean, for one, it was a short film, and I could rant about this for a while. But
it was like 18 minutes, right, or something like that. 15 minutes.
It was about 16 minutes. In short, it was a short film on a giant concept. So
it needed 3 hours, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was a feature film.
That was my point. That was my point to Andrew. It was like if you want to make a short film, tell a short story.
Yeah.
If you want to make a YouTube video, tell a story about your day. You know, your vlog, your new
one video, one topic kind of thing.
A wheelchair trick. It's just like
you're unboxing something, whatever it is. It's like
make it singleness purpose. The singleness of purpose, yeah.
And the thing that we were literally talking about earlier was the audio. The audio was the worst part of that short film. Like AJ was saying, like they should have just hired an audio guy, and it would have been so much better. It was bad, but I feel like we've exhausted a lot of our camera talk for a while.
That wrapped. I mean, that was good though. That's a good.
Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that.
This is a turn. So, we have been mostly talking about like wheelchair life. We talk a little bit about current events and topics, but technical conversation, YouTube conversation, industry conversation is not going to be uncommon here. So if you're a person that enjoys that type of thing, or if you're a fellow creator, or if you want to be a creator, like we also, if you want to really, really know what's up, jump on the Patreon podcast, because we were podcasting before we even 6 months before we even put out our first video. We were podcasting like from the ground up. You can go back.
We were cocky little motherfuckers too. We were talking about how big we were going to get and all this stuff.
But it happened. Like we knew we had something special here, like from the beginning. And I mean, you're right. I go back to listen to like episode 4 or 5, and I was like, dude, we called our shots, dude. Like
we called our shots.
But if you really want to know, like you can dive hella deep back there. But
for sure,
that this is going to be, this is the Wheels to Walking podcast, but it's not the me podcast. It's like Andrew is here,
I'm
AJ's
the walking.
here.
You're the wheels, I'm the walking, and AJ's the two.
I'm Andrew too.
Yeah, he literally is Andrew too. AJ literally stands for Andrew.
Yeah.
So
I want to say thanks to everyone.
Andrew James?
Jordan.
Andrew Jordan.
Yeah. I just want to say thanks to everyone who's already rated and reviewed the podcast. That's
hopefully
pretty cool.
That's you.
Yeah, hopefully that's you. And all the nice things you've been saying to us. If you haven't been do that, like please jump on iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, write a review. We're trying to get on New and Noteworthy. If you can't do that, take a screenshot of it, post it up on your Instagram story.
That really helps.
Share it on Facebook. Tell a friend, whether they're an able-bodied person or a disabled person. Like spread the word, because we really believe in what we're doing. Like we know that we've got something special here, and we're adding.
And especially like the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about a lot of stuff that like a lot of able-bodied people would benefit from knowing.
Yeah, even the first 15 minutes, I know like we talked about like the pregnant stuff, and then dove into questions, and then I shot a question back at you, and that took the rest of the episode up. But that's fine. But we really care over here, and like you can help too. Like you can,
yeah, for sure.
Like you honestly, like we're the ones making the content, but if you aren't listening and watching, and if you aren't sharing, then
we're not making it for anybody else.
We're not making it for anybody else. So like if you guys want to be the heroes, if you guys want to be like the people, like the backers, like the cheerleaders of our team, like please.
We're trying to get on New and Noteworthy, so do it. We really need your help. That's pretty much it. Thanks for listening to episode 5.
Follow us on places.
Bye.
See ya.